Alright, so what the, I don't know what that is. Maybe they just patched it. Oh, points. Okay. I was kind of thinking about combat last night, and I decided to maybe we could try out a different way of doing it that's not too different, but I wanted to make it a little bit more easier and a little bit more streamlined um, than we previously had. So if you watched the previous video, you know all about 2 hits and armor and all that. But what I'm looking at in this version is, instead of having to hit modifiers and different target numbers, um, all attacks hit on 4+. So you have a 50% chance per die to hit. So that's pretty easy to figure out. If you're rolling 4d6 for your attack, you should expect on the average at least 2 hits per attack. And instead, bonuses and penalties modify the dice pool, or the size of the dice pool, rather than the target number. And I kind of want to go with this instead of having to go like, oh, light armor 4+, range -1, cover -2, so 2+. I think it's a little bit easier if we just take the dice pool and modify it with bonuses and penalties rather than the target numbers. So, for instance, one of the things I'd also like to do is merge cover, mostly because I was thinking about making maps for campaigns and scenarios that you're going to have to spend time and sit here and go, okay, is this light cover, medium cover, or is this low cover, high cover, is that high cover, low cover, okay, we reduce that, so that's low cover. So if we just make cover one thing where it's all cover, I think that's going to be a little bit easier. So instead of having 2 different colors, we would just have one type of cover, and that's just cover. And if cover gets reduced, then it's gone, which makes sense, because like if you use a rocket launcher or something to blow a hole in the whole building doesn't blow up. You blew a hole like in that specific hex face, for instance. If this is like a wall or something, a brick wall, you just kind of blew a hole through it, and then that unit's exposed right there, so you'd have to move over. And then kind of the same thing with armor. Armor hasn't really changed. Evasion still adds or subtracts dice from the pool, and then so does range. And then crits I'll get to in a second. But basically what we're looking at is, and I'll probably adjust weapon values for dice pools to make them a little bit bigger because of this. But let's just say my green guy here, with his stats and his weapons, he gets, we'll go with like what, 60, 66. So, and his rifle's range, as per the last video, is range 6. So, if he were attacking from here against this pawn over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah, 5 range. He's behind cover, so we would just take half this pool. So, 6, half of that is 3. And then we would roll. And we would score 2 hits, 2 crits. So, pretty easy. That was like, took 2 seconds to figure out. And then the other thing with like armor. So heavy armor provides no evasion because it's heavy, has the most armor out of everything. Medium armor has a little bit of both, has a little bit of evasion, has a little bit of armor. And then light armor has 2 evasion because it's the lightest and you can still move freely around. Evasion is just a straight subtraction from your dice pool. So same example, let's say that this unit that I'm firing against has light armor. So we would subtract first. I know it goes against PEMDAS, but so we would take 2 dice off the pool, and then we would subtract, or we would take half because he's in cover. So I would roll 2d6. Or we could switch it up. We could do subtraction or cover first, then armor. Something we can figure out, but that's 1 hit then. Or if he was medium armored, we would only take 1 die off the top. So we would take 1 die off the top, take half of 5, 2.5, round down to 2. So same thing. Roll 2d6. I'm a little snotty today, I'm sorry. And 1 hit. Now if we factored range into this, I think that's range interval 1 or 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So he's at 2 range intervals. So we would take 1 off, 1 out of their pool for the range interval, 2 out of the pool for light armor, and then take half of that, which is 1.5, round down to 1, and roll that. No hits. So I think it's a little bit faster that way, because you're just focused on how many dice you have to roll instead of the number that you have to roll, or the target number. Now, as far as crits goes, instead of bypassing armor, because I really like to put an importance on armor, and instead of wearing it and getting shot through it anyways. Now, some abilities may penetrate armor, but regular crits should not. Crits should be activators for skills. And by that, I mean, for instance, burst is a weapon tag, so it's basically a free skill that you get for using certain weapons with burst. But if I were to use a burst attack, I would spend 2 ammo, and I would gain +2 to the attack. And it also says here, crit times 2, shred 1 per crit. So crit times 2, this nomenclature simply means that if I score at least 2 crits or more. So if I score 2 crits, this activates. If I only score 1 crit, this doesn't activate. And if it does activate, I shred 1 per crit. And I'm not sure if I explained shred, but shred is just extra armor damage. So, for instance, let's say, again, my dice pool is 66. I'm going to go ahead and spend 2 ammo to burst, so I gain +2 more. This would probably be a good idea in a unit not in cover, but I'm in 1 range interval. He has light armor, and then he's in cover. So 1, 2. How many dice do I have? 7. It's 3.5, so 3. So yeah, it'd be a good idea not to do this against a unit in cover. Then I would roll. Not a very good roll, 2 hits. But let's go ahead and go, oh, I'm going to move so I can flank, so he's not in cover. And we're going to go ahead and burst again. So my dice pool of 6. Spend 2 ammo to burst. And then take 2 away because he has light armor, 2 evasion. So it kind of cancels itself out. It's still 6, 16, 6. And I actually did score two crits. So that's a good example. I didn't have to change the dice. So crit 2, crit times 2, shred 1 per crit. So altogether, this would do 1 damage, 2 damage, 3 damage, 4 damage. So 4 damage to armor if he had any, and then shred 1 per crit. It's 2 more armor damage. So that would do 6 damage altogether to armor. Now, shred only applies to armor, so if you didn't have any armor, it would just be 4 hits, which is bad enough. But that's basically what I'm looking at here. Instead of just doing, 3+, 4+, 5+, etc., we can just do dice pools. And I think maybe I think maybe cover before anything else would be, well, obviously would be more effective. So if he had 2 evasion, 1 range, or no, that's how we were doing it. Okay, so straight off the top, he's in cover 3, 6, 7, 3.5, 3. Yeah, 2 evasion, 1 range, no dice left. So I think that would work better because it puts more emphasis on mining your range and your cover, and pretty much it makes it so players have to move a little bit more. Because here I'd be in cover, and technically that line's not really supposed to extend past this hex face. I'd be in cover, and then this shot would be a flank shot, so that would be good. And then that would force him to move somewhere over here. That would be still in cover for both of us. So it creates a little bit more of a dynamic, I think, than just sitting in cover and just shooting at each other. But that's what I'm looking at, and I think I'm going to add that to the rules doc in red. I'm not going to actually change the rules until I get feedback on. I mean, obviously we should probably play test it both ways and see what people think feels better. So I'm going to add that in a red text under the combat section, because I don't want to delete what I have. So there we go.